Well, welcome everyone. Happy almost winter solstice. Next week, we're approaching the darkest time of the year. And this time of year is my favorite time of year to practice yin yoga. Why? Because it's close to the ground. So it's near the earth, which is very nourishing and grounding for us, right? It's also very slow and sweet, which is not to be confused with gentle yoga, although today will be fairly gentle. And this particular practice is a yin yoga practice designed for winter. Now, what does that mean? It means that we're going to be stimulating points along the kidney meridian and the bladder meridian. Another word for meridian is energy line. You can just imagine it's not just the actual bladder or the actual kidney, but in traditional Chinese medicine, there's an energy line that connects with that energy. So why these two? Kidney is active and its bladder, its pair meridian is the bladder meridian. They work together in the wintertime. And the kidneys are our batteries, right? If anybody has ever had the unfortunate event of having a kidney infection, you are out of batteries, right? You are just done. You're on the couch. There's nothing you could do. And that's similar sometimes to how we feel when there's like a depletion of energy, right? And we need to take care of our batteries, especially in the winter time. So how does this show up? Well, when kidney energy is out of balance or maybe stuck, then it can show up as lower back pain. And this is not just like I've been sitting all day kind of ache. It's more like a deep ache. It can also show up as knee pain or knee issues. And again, it's not the only reason why people have knee pain or low back pain, but it can be one of those things. Now, another thing that shows up is fear, right? So when kidney is out of balance, we get this fear, which can be very common around this time of year where it's like, oh, I don't know what's happening next year, and winter and darkness, and back in the old days, like, do I have enough food to make it through kind of thing. So these are all very natural things, especially when that energy is stuck or out of balance. Now, when it's in balance and it's not so stuck, it's moving easily, we have a sense of wisdom instead of this fear that can pop up. So that is my hope for you, is to have the energy moving a little bit more freely as a result of our time together, and to tap into a little bit of that inner knowing that regardless of different fears or stresses or anxieties that you have, especially around this holiday season, that there are things that you know for sure to be true for you. And so that is something that we'll connect with tonight. All right, I'm going to head to my mat now that you all are here, those of you live. And if you're ever watching a recording and you love it, hit the little heart button to like it, because then you can go back to it much more easily. All right, so let's start. If you have a blanket that you can fold up and use to sit on, or then unfold and create some softness for your knees later on, that can be really useful. And if you have either a sturdy sort of couch pillow or a set of yoga blocks at home, I would grab those so they're nearby as well. And we're going to start in a seated position with the soles of the feet together and the knees wide. Excuse me. And this can be any shape here. Feet further away from you, feet closer. And I particularly, at least right now in the way my body's feeling, I like sitting up on a little bit of height. That's why I have the blanket underneath my bum, but I'm also sort of half scooched off of it. So it's kind of holding my butt cheeks, but the bones of my butt are on the floor. That's not intended to be TMI. It's just intended to invite you to explore how and where, and if you're feeling the support of any kind of props. And then go ahead and bring your hands to your ankles, if possible. And if you bring the hands even closer so that the thumbs are sort of by your ball of the foot, that's actually where kidney 1 on the kidney meridian is located. And I'll show you exactly where in case you would like to massage it. But if you take your finger and draw a line between the second and third toe and then go down around the ball of your foot, relax your foot and start poking around there. You might find a spot where you're like, ooh, that's a little sensitive. Not in a pain kind of way, but just like in a fun ouch kind of way. And this is a point that is so powerful. Your acupuncturist would never needle it. And, but you can get some benefit from massaging it. So if you feel like touching your feet, you could bring your thumbs there. The point exists on both sides, but you don't have to do them both at the same time. And so we find ourselves in butterfly shape, opening up the inner line of the legs, starting to feel our way into the body, or feel your way into your body. And that means you can wiggle or move your head and decide if you want to fold a little forward or simply stay upright. And see if you can feel yourself anchoring into the earth. That point on your foot, kidney 1, is called bubbling spring. If you think about it, that's the spot on your foot where when it's flat to the earth, it has the most contact, connection, right? That point connecting with the earth's energy. And so they call it bubbling spring because that's where the energy springs up from the earth into you. And so all of that is really just a reminder of how much our energy is connected to the earth and its shifts, changes, and seasons. Feel free to let go of any massaging of the feet. If you like it, you can continue. And we'll be in this shape for a little bit longer. See if you can connect with gravity, the earth's compassionate pull, drawing you towards it always. And allow gravity to help you let go of muscular tension. So instead of feeling like you're gripping and holding your legs in the shape, is it possible? Does it feel okay to, I guess the word is relax, but let go and let gravity draw you heavier and closer to the earth. As we play with these shapes tonight, there's nothing fancy you need to do with your breath. But it can be magical to pay attention to it. So at any time, feel free to tune in to your natural rhythm of breath. If you're folded forward, maybe come to an upright position. And whenever you move out of a shape you've been holding for a while or sustaining, it's nice to move slowly and maybe help with your hands. So help your knees together. Notice if there's some achiness, that's really normal. And take a moment now to maybe rub the legs where there's some of that ache or leftover sensation. Maybe move or shake or do something more yang, which just means more energetic than the passive yin holding that we just did. It doesn't have to be jumping around, but if that feels like what's right for you next, then do that. All right. So for our next position, we're not going to move very far. In fact, I'm going to scoot back up on top of my blanket fold and take the legs wide. I love the yin names for some of the poses, this one in particular. It's called dragonfly. And you don't have to go as far as your legs possibly want to go because you want to be able to relax and sort of feel like you're resting in the position as you sustain it. So again, if you feel like you need to grip and pull the legs, maybe change the shape. Sometimes a little difference is all that you need. Again, the idea here is to open up the inner line of the legs, which is where that kidney meridian then comes up from the ball of your foot around the inside of the ankle and up to the inner thigh. So if you like, stay as you are. If you want to lean forward, you can. You can hold the floor. Some of you may make it to forearms. Or if you like, grab one of your couch pillows, a bolster if you have it, or something else to help you prop yourself up here. You could hug a big cushion or take blocks under your elbows. And the practice of yin yoga is really more of an undoing. So once you find your shape, can you feel your body relax into it? Can you feel yourself rest into gravity? And welcome any thoughts that come up. Welcome any emotions or sensations you feel. Or if it's interesting to you, tune into your natural breath rhythm. Now, even though we're sustaining the shape for a little while, maybe 2 minutes or so, this doesn't mean you can't move, right? So if the sensation you're feeling ever spikes or increases and you no longer feel that sense of resting into the shape, into gravity, then change the shape. Take a few more moments. Notice a few more breaths. And then ease your way out. Help your legs together with your hands. Sometimes they feel a little stuck. That's normal. And again, move here to help any stuckness or tenderness move out of your body, out of your system. You might try something a little more energetic, like hands and feet on the floor, lift your bum. If you're on your back, maybe it's a bridge pose. You could straighten the legs and turn it into an upward plank. Anything at all that feels good, right? You tend to think of it as balance, but it's really just bringing yourself back together again. After some yin, try some yang. I'm doing a few twists here. And then we'll get into our next shape. And this is where some softness can be really nice. The next shape will be a toe stretch. And part of this is to get access to that bottom of the foot where we massaged earlier. Now I'm going to use my folded blanket and place my knees on it and come to hands and knees to start. And then as best as possible, and it's totally okay if you skip this or if you stay right here in hands and knees, curl the toes under so you're opening up the sole of the foot. Now you don't have to hold this as long as we did the previous postures. There's no reason to create more sensation if this is enough for you. But for some of you, you may lean the hips back slightly and put a little bit more pressure on the toes or create a little bit more of a space or stretch. Now, if it becomes unbearable, back out of it. And those of you who are either brave or crazy, I'm not sure which today, you could come into more of what's called a classic toe stretch where you're sitting upright. But as you can kind of see, I'm starting to arch away because it's just too much. Remember, this is yin, not yang. So we want to be able to be in a shape for at least a little bit without there being that wincing of pain or sensation. We're not going for big here. We're simply going for space and stimulation. And then when you feel you've had enough, uncurl the toes, maybe a little gentle tap on the floor. Oh, all right, it's all over now. So for this next part, from hands and knees, take your right foot forward, almost like a lunge, but we're not really going in that direction. We're gonna head back. And so for some knees, this is why I have the knee up on a little bit of a blanket and my foot is a little lower. You can change how that is for you. I'm gonna grab my yoga block. You could also grab a big sturdy cushion and place it underneath the right butt cheek. So the same side as you have your foot forward. We're essentially coming into what's called half saddle, or in other yoga traditions, it's called half hero pose. The point here is some spaciousness in the front of the thigh, as well as what we're going to do a little bit of arching in the back. Now, I realize that this doesn't work for everybody's knees. So if that's you, come back to hands and knees and pause for a moment, and I'll show you in a moment another alternative. If you're feeling pretty good here, you might stay. You could hold on to the knee and hang out. And maybe after a few moments of that, you could lean back onto one hand or possibly both. And that's where that arc in the back is going to come, as well as some stretch feeling through the front of the left thigh. You can drop your head back if you want, but you really don't need to. You could look at your knees, no problem there. Now, I promised an alternative. If you're happy where you are, you can stay. But if this is just too much for the knees, unwind everything and come to sit. Because really the point is some stimulation in the low back region, which is where the bladder meridian comes through. So extend your legs out, sit on your bum, and lean back onto the hands. It doesn't look like much. It may not feel like a lot, but we're going to be here for just a little while. So remember, it's not about going big. It's about that slow cooked stimulation on that really low setting. So wherever you are, take a few more moments. Notice a few more breaths. And then when you feel ready to move out of the shape, do so slowly. Maybe walk forward onto hands and knees. Bring both knees to the ground, shake it out. Sometimes after that, something much more energetic like a downward dog can feel good, right? As a counter stretch, feel free to move and walk around. Maybe you're in cat-cow and moving the spine around on hands and knees. And we'll set up for the other side. So when you're ready, take your left foot forward from hands and knees, almost like you're preparing for a lunge. But then remember, we're going back. So take your block, have it ready to be underneath your left bum cheek. And there's different heights of the blocks, right? Different squishy factors if you're using a couch pillow. And it might have to be different on this side, right? Depending on your knees, depending on your ankles, depending on lots of things. Maybe you pause here for a moment. Maybe you lean back on fingertips or on palms. And remember that this side might have to look different. So if you need to scratch all of that and come to sit, extend your legs and then instead lean back onto the hands, try that instead. If you were on your hands before, maybe try elbows on the ground. It's essentially a yin style fish pose. Notice the effect of gravity on your body. Notice the effect of time. Take a few more moments. Notice a few more breaths. And when you feel ready, make your way out slowly and take some time to counter stretch, to move, to explore. If downward dog felt good, maybe another one here will feel good. It's up to you. And then we'll take our next shape when you're ready on the belly in Sphinx pose. So if you have a light layer of blanket, you might unfold it so it's just a baby layer of blanket. I like that underneath my pubic bone area, just so it feels super comfortable. It's nice to have the tops of the thighs on there too, but then the feet can hang out below. And then start by bringing the elbows underneath you to prop yourself up. Wiggle the feet around so you can see whether this is feeling like the shape that you want to be in. Now you could absolutely hold your head. And if you realize that maybe this is just too much of an arch, walk your elbows forward or even hold opposite elbows with your hands and rest your forehead down on your arms. Spend a few moments here in this passive back bend. And check in. Notice that maybe there's a bit of dull sensation in your lower back. And ask yourself, is it that dull ache? Or is it more sharp or acute? Are you starting to wince away from it? In which case, back off, change the shape. Can you feel your breath move into your low back? Can you feel your body soften towards the earth? Take a few more moments. Notice a few more breaths. And gently lower yourself down to the ground. Pause for a moment. Maybe wiggle your bum to release any tenderness in the low back. The next shape we'll take is a rounded back, something like a child's pose. You don't have to bend your knees quite so much. But if on your way there, you want to move and wiggle and turn and round and arch your spine, please do that. And eventually find yourself moving towards something restful, something rounded. And once again, in this shape, can you feel the breath moving into your low back? Different now. And then start to make your way out of child's pose. Come on to your seat for a moment. If you like, you can keep the blanket there for what will be underneath your back in a moment. And make your way down to the floor with your back on the ground. If the blanket's not in the right place, change it up. I like having that extra layer of feeling warm under my back. So I'm gonna shift it slightly. Draw the knees in, make circles in the air and feel as if your low back is getting massaged with the circles reflected against the floor. Try a few times in the other direction. And then take your feet to the floor, but wide, perhaps like your yoga mat or even wider. And take your arms out wide to the side. You can leave the arms as you have them, or take more of a cactus shape with the elbows bent and the hands closer to your face. I'm choosing this as a way to create some more space in my chest and shoulders. They tend to get left out of these types of practices because most of the yin energy lines live in the lower legs. But it's up to you. It's just more of a personal preference. Now let your knees fall over to the right. Allow your body to twist. And your feet may move or slide until they find a spot where they feel happy. In yin yoga, we call this twisted root. So you might imagine or envision a twisting of a root of a tree, perhaps, or its trunk. All the time anchored to the earth, even as you twist. If you feel inclined to gently roll your head a little bit from side to side, you can invite some movement there. And then bring your knees back up through to your starting position. Pause for a moment, maybe change up the arm position. And now twist to the other side. Let your knees fall to the left. Again, they might slide slightly to find their perfect spot, a perfectly twisted root. Are you holding any tension in your hands? What happens if you let go? Then bring your knees up to your starting position. Pause for a moment and decide, are there any other movements now? Maybe a simple squeeze of the knees in, or grab the feet for happy baby. You could try something more yang or active with the feet on the floor again and lift the hips for bridge pose. Anything at all. And when you're ready to rest, extend your legs out on the floor or roll up your blanket and place it under the knees. Feel yourself heavy and anchored to the earth. And even though your body has weight, can you tune into a sense of lightness, a lightness of being? Maybe you call it contentment. Maybe you call it tired, a good kind of tired. Slowly wiggle fingers and toes. Perhaps stretch along the ground. And ever so sweetly, help yourself up to sit. Bring one hand to the belly and the other to the heart. And connect with these two special energetic places, these places in you that have so much wisdom, so much intuition. And thank yourself for taking this time to really be with yourself, not just physically, but in the whole self kind of way. And ask yourself, what is it that you need next? Just like you trusted your former self that made an appointment to show up to yin yoga today, trust yourself, trust your inner wisdom. You know what you need. I thank you so much for your presence and your practice. I hope you have a sweet, sweet rest of your evening and stay warm. Happy almost winter.